Today I'm going to be doing an installation and review of a Linux distro that many of you have asked me to review in the past. I know a few of you were kind of annoyed that it wasn't on my list of top 5 Linux distros recommended for beginners, but anyway, I'm going to give it the attention that it deserves now. I'm going to be taking a look at Fedora Linux. So Fedora is another one of those just works distros, meaning that it's fairly easy to install. It again is something that you would generally recommend for beginners. It is also a bleeding edge distro, so it's not one of those that is sort of frozen in time with older packages. If you install Fedora and update it, you should have access to all of the latest packages. I would assume that it also uses a fairly bleeding edge kernel. It's probably going to be running like 5.9 or something like that. And as you can see on the Fedora website, their site is getfedora.org, by the way, there's a few different editions that are available. So there's the Fedora Workstation, there's the Fedora Server, and there is the Fedora Internet of Things platform. So Fedora isn't just meant to be used as a workstation, it's also meant to be used as, well, a server and an Internet of Things platform. But today we are going to be looking at the workstation. And so there's some options to download it. There's also a media writer that comes with it. So again, this is something that is going to make it really easy for you to transition to Fedora. Whether you're currently on Windows or Mac OS, you could use this media writer to burn the ISO to a flash drive. And you've got a couple options for downloading it. So for regular x86 64 CPUs, you can download the ISO. There's also a raw image available for ARM processors. Now, it is worth noting that this Fedora Linux distribution comes with the GNOME desktop environment. And I know a lot of people are opposed to using gnomes. A lot of people trash GNOME, but it isn't necessarily a Fedora thing, right? Like you're not actually forced to use GNOME on Fedora. You do have access to what the Fedora project calls spins, which are basically just community editions of Fedora that come with different desktop environments. So on the spins.fedoraproject.org site, we can see that they have one with KDE Plasma, one with XFCE, LXQT, Mate, Cinnamon. There's a bunch of different options for spins that you can use with Fedora if you don't like GNOME. Or, of course, you could just uninstall GNOME once you have Fedora installed and then switch desktop environments. But obviously, that's going to be a little bit more complicated for beginners. So if you're disgusted by GNOME, obviously, you can boot this into a live CD if you're not sure what GNOME looks like or feels like, and try it out. And yeah, if you're disgusted by it, just download one of these community editions with a different desktop environment that you might be able to appreciate more, and then you could roll with that. The ISO, it's not too large. It's about 1.9 gigs in size, so that's pretty much normal for what we would see with most Linux distros. It's going to be able to fit on a USB stick as small as 2 gigs, which I think these days is pretty much the smallest flash drive that you can get. So pretty much any USB stick, unless it's fairly old, is going to be able to be used as the installation medium. So this is what Fedora will look like when you first boot it up from your USB stick or into a virtual machine like I'm doing here. So the automatic boot countdown, and then you can either start Fedora Workstation Live, you can test the media, or go into the troubleshooting. So let's just go ahead and start it. All right, and we are now in the live CD, and we actually have a full screen, which is very promising. Typically, when I'm able to get a full screen in VirtualBox right away, that usually means that it's going to play nice with the graphics driver when you actually do install it to hardware, so that's good to see. And of course, with all Linux distributions, you can either try it out, so give it a test drive. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit slower if you're running it off of a flash drive versus a hard disk or certainly a solid state disk inside of your computer. I'm just going to go ahead and install it though, so that we can actually test drive it with that better hardware speed. Also to take a look at what the installer looks like, because I've heard it's different than a lot of others. All right, so let's see. Yeah, it appears to take up the whole screen, and there's really okay, I guess that's how you would get out of it if you wanted to like run Firefox or something at the same time. Okay. Yeah, again, this is GNOME, something that I'm not really used to, so I might be fumbling about a bit in this video. Now let's just close Firefox. All right, so we're gonna select our language, defaults to English and United States English, the best kind. So we'll hit continue. All right, and okay, so US is automatically selected for the keyboard, New York is the right time zone. System, automatic partitioning selected. Let's see, so it looks like I can click into this and, okay, so I could do like a custom setup and go ahead and encrypt my home partition and things like that. Okay, so that's interesting. You have to click into it. Usually you have this option where, I mean, you can still select it, but usually it's a little bit more visible on other Linux distros, like Linux Mint, for example. But that's fine. We'll just go ahead and begin the installation. Okay, so it uses BTRFS as the default. That's fine. Most distro these days, I think they are using BTRFS for their file system. So it's just kind of going with what the rest of the crowd is doing. I think this might literally be the only step, because I see this is grayed out right now, but it says finish installation. So it's, what was that, a 2-click install? That's really straightforward. I don't think I've ever dealt with any other Linux distro that is that straightforward to install. Now, again, as we saw, they kind of hide some configuration options from you. So if you're somebody who's maybe a little bit more advanced, wanting to use Fedora, you might find that a little bit frustrating, where you have to kind of hunt for the different options that you want to use. But if you're a beginner, this is great, right? The less that you have to do to get started with Linux, the better. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pause the video now, let this finish up, and then we'll come back when Fedora is fully installed. All right, so the installation has finished. Took about maybe 6 or 7 minutes to install to a solid state disk. Not too bad. So we'll finish it. And let's see, I don't think it's restarting automatically, so I gotta go ahead and do that. Actually, I'm going to power it off so that I can remove my virtual disk or virtual CD disk, because I think I forgot to change the priority of that. Yeah, usually I put the hard drive first so I can just reboot into it, but you know, forgot to do that this time. All right, so let's start this back up. Now, there's probably going to be some other setup I got to do because I didn't create a user. So I imagine that it's going to bring me to a prompt to do that. Create my user, put a password, maybe do some other things. One thing that always kind of bugs me about Fedora is their logo. Like at first glance, it looks like the Facebook logo to me. I don't know, maybe that's just me. All right, so welcome to Fedora 33. Let's start setup. Yeah, sure. We'll enable that stuff. Usually I would disable location services and automatic problem reporting, but this is just a VM, and I'm probably not going to really use it for anything else other than making this video. So connect online accounts. All right, so you have the option to do that, but I'm not going to do that. All right, and we can create my user. And I like the color it picked for me. Somehow knew that I like orange. All right, so hit next. All right, so we're all done. We can start using Fedora. And again, it picked the right resolution. Oh, what's going on here? Everything went gray. All right, are we good now? I think we're good. Okay, so this little tour thing comes up. Sure, let's start the tour. I'm not really that familiar with GNOME, so maybe this will help me out with the video. All right, yeah, activities, I get that. That's basically my start menu. Yeah, I can search for stuff. Okay, cool, I get that. Just like Ubuntu, there's the time, yeah. Let's see. How difficult is it to change this to AM, PM? Because that is typically what I prefer instead of a 24-hour clock. I know that the Europeans are probably thinking, you silly Americans with your AM, PM. At least I think. Most of my friends that I've had from Europe preferred the 24-hour clock. Let's see. Date and time. There we go. All right, so yeah, click the time to see notifications. I wish that it would have an option in here to do it, but I don't see it, so that's a little annoying that I have to go through the settings to do it. And yeah, of course, you've got the notifications option here, just like Ubuntu. System information and settings is over here. Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, so we can start getting into the meat and potatoes of this review. So we've got Firefox, that is our default web browser. I'm gonna start it up. I'm interested to see what the version of Firefox is, as well as what the new tab page is. Oh, it doesn't look like they customize your new tab page. Okay, that's interesting. And it looks like Google is the default search engine that it installs. And they add, in my opinion, quite a bit of bloat, all this stuff here, these different bookmarks. So that's not something that I would like if I was going to be using this full time. Let's see, what version are we on? We're on version 81. All right, so fairly up to date. Yeah, we'll close multiple tabs. All right, let's see what other software we've got here. So we've got Boxes, which is a virtual machine manager created by the GNOME team. Similar to VirtualBox, which is, of course, what I have this VM booted in. What else do we have? Oh, we have no maps. I don't think I've ever used this before. Okay, so it's just regular good old Maps app. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's see, does this have a, what's the word, topographical? As a night mode. That looks interesting. Hmm. Let's see, is there, oh, okay, here it is. Looks really cool. See the Appalachian Mountains running here. Cool stuff. All right, so we'll close out of that. Let's see, what other apps do we have? Oh, we got Rhythmbox, which is going to be used for ripping CDs, and it's also an audio player. Pretty nice audio player. So this is the file manager. Let me see, this is probably Nautilus, right? Yeah, Nautilus, or I guess GNOME Files is the other name for it. And I think this is also the default icon set. Yeah, this is pretty lame. They should put like some kind of something different here, man. I mean, even like Kali Linux back when it was GNOME only, they had their own icon set inside of Nautilus. This is just not looking too great. All right, so we've got the Office suites, of course, LibreOffice Calc, Impress, Writer, all that good stuff. We got utilities here. So what kind of utilities? System monitor. You really should have HTOP. At least that's what I prefer. Oh, and this has Wayland running. Interesting. So it doesn't use X. It's using Wayland. All right, let's see. Okay, I'm a little out of my depth here. How can I spawn a terminal? Okay, it's actually a little bit of work to spawn a terminal, which is not something that I'm a fan of, because I'm doing Control-Alt-T, but that's not working. All right, do I have HTOP? Don't have HTOP. You have top, which some people would argue is really all you need, but I like the pretty colors with HTOP. All right, let's look through the rest of these applications. Let's see, did we miss anything? I'm guessing that's some kind of GNOME video. Let's see, help. Videos, also known as Totem. Okay, yeah, I haven't used this before. But as I'm sure you guys know, I would prefer MPV as my video player. And what else? So we got a calendar, cheese, clocks, contacts, weather. Okay, so a few applications. Not a whole lot though. But then again, this is only a 1.9 gigabyte ISO, so I guess they just didn't pack a whole lot in here. So since there's not a whole lot of software that comes out of the box, let's actually take a look at the software center. So this is going to be the front end for actually DNF. I was about to say APT, but Fedora doesn't use APT, it uses DNF. So yeah, let's go shopping. Oh, so this is another thing about Fedora that I was just reading about so that I wouldn't go into this review being completely ignorant of what it's about. So Fedora by default doesn't have proprietary software. So you have to actually enable that. It tries to sort of push the user in a direction to use all free software, or at least open source software, which is good and bad, right? It's good because obviously part of getting people to use Linux is that we want them to use free software, but bad because, well, there's a lot of proprietary software that people are going to want to use. Discord, Skype, Spotify. Can't really think of a whole lot of proprietary software off the top of my head. FreeOffice would probably be another one. But yeah, we'll go ahead and enable that. And let's see, there's all kinds of updates that are already available. I guess we'll see what's available there. This is taking a long time to check. It's like the sync takes a while. All right, so what do we got? OS updates. And okay, sure. So let's oh, I don't want to restart though. So we won't do that just yet. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, we have a lot of good stuff that's recommended right out of the box. GNU Image Manager, Transmission, Blender, a lot of software that I use, Thunderbird. Oh, I thought that's a genie for a second. I was about to say, that doesn't look like Genie. Genie's the little lamp. I wonder if there are Flatpaks on here. Where's the search? Oh yeah, here it is. Got to get used to that being on the left-hand side with GNOME. So, let's see, what ships as a Flatpak? Maybe Spotify? No. Skype? No. Edge? No. Actually, no, Edge isn't a Flatpak. What am I talking about? Discord? No. Okay, so maybe we don't have Flatpaks, or maybe we just have to do it from the terminal. Oh yeah, that's right. Got to search for that. God, this is so annoying. I wish. Let's see. Gosh, I don't know what the shortcut is to launch a terminal. Let's see. Can I make it bigger? Doing this. Yes, I can. All right. So Flatpak help. Okay, so Flatpak is on here. So we could presumably just install Flatpaks. Oh, let's footprint the system real quick. So I'm gonna do it with htop. Actually, probably got to be sudo to do this. So sudo dnf install htop. And then, yeah, put in the password. And, okay, so it's asking me if I want to do it. Yeah, obviously. Oh, it doesn't. That's right. So you can actually tell because it's a big N and a little Y. So it doesn't default to yes. It defaults to no, which is kind of annoying. You know, you would think, well, one, this is going to make batch installation of applications a little bit more complicated because you have this, you know, yes prompt here. You can deal with it. I think it's like double hyphen Y or something like that. It is possible to script it. All right, so let's footprint this baby. And yeah, so as you guys can see, this is the reason right here why I'm not really a big fan of GNOME. We're using 1.5 gigs and nothing else is running besides htop. This is almost as bad as Windows. Like Windows 10 uses about 2 gigs of RAM at idle, sometimes a little bit more, but generally in my experience is about 2 gigs at idle. So yeah, if we were to, you know, fire up Firefox with a few tabs, or especially if we were going to use Chrome, like I think I saw Chrome in the software here after enabling third party. Let's see, Chrome. Yeah, so you do have Chrome. Oh, it's also got GNU IceCat in here as well. I will actually install this just to see what version of GNU IceCat. Oh, it's version 78. That is actually the best thing that I've seen here so far. You can get a fairly late version of GNU IceCat through your software manager. So that is really, really cool. But again, not to take away from this. Yeah, it's a little chunky. Oh, and I only put one CPU. Damn, I should have put two. Usually I set it to be 2 CPU threads, but obviously I forgot. So it's gonna make this GNOME experience even slower. All right, yeah, so we'll close that. Yeah, I want to open IceCat real quick, because this is pretty much one of the best browsers out there if you don't want any spyware. Why does it not have a maximize button? That's special. And we go about IceCat, and yeah, it's version 78, which I think is the latest version. What is the latest version of GNU IceCat? And we could probably just look on their wiki here. Oh, this is saying that 60 is the latest version. Or no, that's based on Firefox, right? Doesn't find 78. Whatever. I'm pretty sure that this is the latest version of GNU IceCat. So that is pretty much the best thing about Fedora so far. All right, so this this layout is really plain. This is like literally plain GNOME. So let's try to spice things up a bit. Let's go to color. What? Oh, that's to like calibrate the color of my monitor. That's not the kind of color I'm looking for. I guess we'll start with background. Even though I do kind of like this wallpaper. Let's see. Sure, this is colorful. Actually, that's a little bit too colorful for me. Let's do this one. The Aurora Borealis. Yeah, that's a nice background. This actually reminds me of the Aurora Borealis background that was on Windows Vista. Okay, so it would be great if I could figure out how to do something like a dark mode, because that is pretty much what I'm trying to do here. Okay, let's try. Let's see, scheme doesn't do it. Color just brings that up. I don't even know what other keywords to look for. Maybe like just dark? No? I feel like it's almost something that's going to be right in front of my face. But I just don't know what it is on GNOME. That just, yeah, it takes me back to that. Let's see, is this it? No, that's keyboard shortcuts. All right, let's see. I'm not finding any options to tweak how things look, which is very, very unfortunate. it can't be that it doesn't have it. That's just too weird. All right, so I went ahead and asked the duck how to change dark mode in Fedora. Apparently, you need to use GNOME tweaks, which isn't something that's installed by default on Fedora. So we'll go ahead and do that once it turns back on. I restarted, well, first I powered off Fedora and then added a second CPU thread, and I also cranked up the RAM to 6 gigs, just so that it wouldn't lag as much and it would be a little bit smoother, because obviously GNOME is a bit heavier. But I unpaused the video right here to show you guys this. So it's installing updates right now. Now, I'd have to look back in the footage, but I don't think that I actually chose an option to install updates. So that means that Fedora has automatic updates enabled, which again is both good and bad. It's going to be good for, I guess, newer users because they're probably going to be used to Windows or Mac OS, which does your automatic updates anyway, and generally it's a good idea to keep your software up to date. But it's bad if you're the type of person that wants to have that control and wants to have that choice over your system like I do. I definitely would not want my system to just update automatically. I want it to update when I tell it to. So this is another reason why I wouldn't personally be using Fedora. And it's kind of annoying because now I gotta pause the video for this to finish. Otherwise, it's gonna be 54% worth of dead video, which nobody's gonna enjoy. So see you guys when this finishes. All right, so we're back at the login screen. Just one other thing to go ahead and show. This is like a real pet peeve, but I usually don't like when password fields have the option to just click a button and then reveal the password. Usually I like when it's set so that you have to hold it down to be able to view what a person's password is. But again, that's just a little pet peeve, not a super big deal. All right, so let's see if my desktop loads faster. Yeah, I guess that's a little bit quicker. All right, so to actually get some kind of a dark mode, we got to install GNOME tweaks. Install. All right, and let's see if I can figure this out. If not, then I'm not really going to bother with it a whole lot more. All right, so yeah, sure. Delete a dark. There we go. There's the dark mode that we wanted. Okay. So that's that. So I guess it's time to go ahead and wrap this up. What do I think about Fedora? I can see how it's very useful for beginners. The installation steps were some of the smoothest, at least as far as having to choose steps go. Wasn't the fastest installation. I have had other distros certainly install quicker. But the thing is, if you're going to be a new user to Linux, you're probably coming from Windows. I mean, it's just statistically, that's what you're going to be coming from. And if you're used to Windows, this layout doesn't look anything like Windows. This is more similar to a Mac. So, you know, if you're, maybe if you're coming from a Mac, this would be okay, but then Elementary OS is like quite literally the Mac OS theme. So it's, you're going to be thrown off a little bit by the user interface. I'm not a fan of how the packages install from the terminal, where you have to hit yes every single time to do it. I'm not a fan of GNOME in general because, you know, we'll just pull up the terminal again, and this is literally just after restarting. Using about 1.2 GB, so that's like 3 times as much as Linux meant if you're loading XFCE. And again, getting somebody used to GNOME, I don't know how much of a service that's going to be to them if they're going to use Linux in general, because I feel like most Linux distros that I try out, they either don't have GNOME as a default installation type, or there's other desktop environments which, again, this is a bias, but I would say are going to be better than GNOME. And you know, this isn't even really a Fedora thing per se, because like I showed you at the beginning of the video, there are spins available where you could use something like XFCE instead. And as we just saw, GNOME tweaks isn't available by default, and that could really throw you off. I mean, I literally had to go ask DuckDuckGo how to configure a dark theme or something like that in GNOME, and it turns out that you had to install an additional package. So as far as how I would rank this, I guess I would rank it better than Ubuntu because it doesn't have the history of nonsense that Ubuntu and Canonical has, but it's not better than Linux Mint. Sorry. If you're new to Linux, I still think that Linux Mint is probably one of the best distros that you should use. But I'm sure some of you guys would disagree with me. Let me know what you think. I know a lot of you really like Fedora because so many of you were asking me to review it. If there was anything that I forgot to take a look at, please let me know. If there were a lot of things, then maybe I'll do a follow-up review of Fedora. Maybe I'll check out one of the spins that they have. As always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like on the video, and share it with your friends. Peace out.